Good afternoon, Bison fans, and welcome to our Bucknell men's and women's swimming and diving virtual season preview. My name is Todd Newcomb, and I'm joined today by Maisha Kelly, our Senior Associate AD for Development. And we want to take this opportunity to thank Giant for sponsoring this year's season preview series. Giant's been a great partner of Bison Athletics, and we thank them for helping us out with the preview series. We've got a great lineup for you today, featuring head coach Dan Schinnerer and 4 of our current swimmers: Maggie Wingowski, Emily Gorham, Kevin Flynn, and Nate Romanowski. And it's going to be a good one. We've got a lot to talk about the up-and-coming men's swimming and diving season. Time now to welcome in the head coach of the Bison, Dan Schinnerer. Dan, thanks for being here. There you go.
Glad to be here. Yep, still working through these Zoom technicalities.
All right. So Dan's in his 15th season at the helm of the men's and women's swimming and diving programs after arriving at Bucknell following a stint as an assistant coach with Michigan's nationally ranked men's program. Under his guidance, Bison swimmers have set new school standards in all 14 events and all 5 relay events on both the men's and women's side. In addition, Dan has been named as a Patriot League Coach of the Year on 4 different occasions. Dan, we'd like to set the stage today with some questions from Maisha about your team's return to play.
Sounds good.
Dan, it's great to see you. Excited to talk a little bit of women's and men's swimming and diving this afternoon. So before we get to talking really about the season, can you share, it's clearly there's been a long planning process to get to this point. We're actually almost a year to the anniversary of when things sort of changed our normal. But talk about what is the new normal as it relates to health and safety, the daily protocols that the team and the staff are managing and ensuring that we continue to move forward. But then also, sort of your observations on the mental and physical resolve of our men and women and how they, again, have responded in this environment.
Yeah. So I think for us, as far as what our day-to-day looks like and how it's, different, or as you said, the new norm, big thing for us, it comes down to capacity, how many people we can have in the pool at once, how many people we can have in a lane at once. We are very fortunate, and we've always said we were very fortunate to have a wonderful facility, as seen behind you and Todd and Kinney Natatorium. And that, I think, has been magnified this season when number of lanes has become a big issue. And so we have been, for the fall and at least the start of this semester, swimming with 1 person per lane. We have recently been able to move to 2 people per lane, swimming from opposite ends. Like everything, it comes down to spacing people out in a safe manner. And so those kind of restrictions limit the number of people you can have in the water at once. But again, with a lot of lane space in Kinney, it's been an obstacle that we can work through. And so that's been one of the biggest differences. If you've been to a swim meet, you can see in a normal time what a swim meet warm-up looks like. You can walk across the pool without getting your feet wet. And so it is different. It's definitely different with people being spread out, having to run more practices in a day to get everybody through. Certainly, we've also been very cognizant and conscious of locker room capacities and people having to move in and out of locker rooms quickly. I think a lot of swimmers and divers like to spend 20 minutes in a hot shower after our practice. That is something we've had to eschew this season as we are trying to manage locker room capacities. And so those have probably been the biggest differences. Thankfully, once we're in the water, even though we have a little less people per lane, the execution of what we're doing looks the same. And so unlike some sports, we don't have to swim with masks on, thankfully. And so once you're in the water and going, it feels, I think, and that's probably a better question for our swimmers because I'm not in the water, but I think it feels pretty normal once you're actually in and going.
Great.
As far as the mental fortitude, I think like all student athletes, they have had the challenge. Our team has had challenges thrown at them, ups and downs, but we keep embracing just the theme that we've had throughout the year of making the most out of the opportunities we do have, living in the present, not getting caught up in, what we've lost, what we can't do. Oh, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? This is what we have in front of us. Let's make the most out of it. And so in the fall, that was about training and doing the best we could there. And now with the prospect of competitions looming on the horizon, there's a little extra spring in the step, and it's definitely switching to making the most out of those opportunities.
Well, we are not surprised the resiliency of our swimmers. It certainly is a tough sport, and you have to be extremely disciplined. And we get to spring, hopefully, into some spring weather, but also some spring into competition, as you say. And part of the planning and getting to this point, of course, is constructing a schedule. And so the schedule certainly looks different than it has in years past. But how have you and your colleagues, particularly in the Patriot League, knowing that there's probably some commonalities and already built in relationships, how have you moved forward with constructing opportunities to compete as you zone in on what is certainly a later date to the Patriot League Championship down the road?
Yeah, and so it's constructing a schedule and a plan, and then redoing it, and then redoing again. As I know, well, you are involved in all that process, but I think we're in a good spot within the Patriot League, and that there is a lot of collegiality amongst the coaches in the league, and so we have been meeting, really since the summer, not necessarily weekly, but certainly monthly and at times weekly. And the theme that has underlied kind of all the discussions amongst the swimming and diving coaches in the Patriot League is trying to create a great experience for our student athletes and find ways to make it work. And so we unlike some of the other sports, we don't have a mandated schedule from the league. And so that gives us a little bit more flexibility, which has certainly been important in these times, to kind of determine what schedule works, maybe to reschedule as we need to, and to work with each other about what makes the most sense. And just as an example, this coming weekend swimming Colgate, coming off of a limited stretch of training, Colgate coach and myself talked about what is a format that's a good first step. And so not being locked into having to do a specific format. And so we've worked together, again, to try to create what's going to be the best experience for our student athletes.
Dan, there was an unusually long break between semesters this year. Obviously, everything has been unique about this year, but that creates some issues with training. And just curious how your team, how are they able to stay in shape during that long break, particularly if they're in a location around the country where they don't have an access to a pool?
Yeah, I mean, that has been probably specific to our sport, the single biggest challenge, whether it's Bucknell, the Patriot League, or anybody that is engaged in the sport of swimming and diving, or the sports of swimming and diving, is, you have to have access to a pool. And so, going back to a year when that became a little bit more haphazard and limited, that has had a big impact. And so it depended on where you were at geographically, what kind of access you could have. And so everybody kind of was trying to make the most, kind of going back to that theme, making the most out of the opportunities they had. And during that 2 months that you referenced, when we had the team away from campus, that was a challenge because, something as, simple as crossing a border changed your whole dynamic. In the month of December, if you lived in Connecticut, you could do basically rec swim. It was very similar in New Jersey, but you couldn't train with a team. If you lived in Pennsylvania, pools were entirely shut down. But in New York, that kind of borders some of these states, they were able to train with club teams during that time. And that's just a small example. Obviously, there's different stipulations across the country. And so it definitely has made for a challenge because as much as, somebody can go out and run or do extensive dryland routines in their basement, you need to swim to feel like you're in good swimming shape. And so that's definitely been a challenge, but one, we just embrace, we're realistic. As we've restarted our training here on campus, we've recognized that the team and the individuals are in different spots. And so we don't try to, put the square peg into the round hole. We figure out where people are at and we try to build from there.
Dan, we're going to dig in here on the women's program a little bit as the women are in quite a successful stretch of the program's history, having had a really successful campaign last season with a 10-1 record in wins and over a 2-year record in meets of 18-2, with the losses coming to the eventual Patriot League champions in Navy. But can you share, what are some of the markers that are to that success and the reasons that you believe we are continuing to elevate? And then what are your expectations for this year knowing again the uniqueness of it in this time in history of the program?
Yeah, I think to your kind of your first question, I think a lot of it has been about growth and development, which is kind of the fundamental goal of our program. It's just about growing as people, growing as a program. And we've just done that really well with the women. And ultimately it goes back to the student athletes. We just a great group of women on the team over the last few years, people that have really pushed the envelope in the right direction about commitment to team, commitment to training, embracing competitive opportunities. And so, last season was part of a progression. And I know last year's seniors were particularly proud of a progression of fifth to fourth to third to second, in their 4 years. And the current group that we have, and everybody that was junior, sophomore, freshman last year, we're part of that. We have just a really strong team dynamic going with that group right now. And so I think it's, individuals that make coaches look like they know what they're doing. And we've got a great group of individuals, and that success has been part of a great process. As far as expectations for this year, one of the things we're actually talking about is just letting go of expectations, or at least letting go of performance expectations, because it is so different. And so some of the standards that we would use in our sport to talk about times and placements and best times, we've actually de-emphasized that. And so we're not talking times and performance expectations. We're talking about how we carry ourselves, how we attack a meet, how we're going to represent our program during this time. And those kind of expectations are what we're looking at. And in a sport where, coaches will talk about a quadrennial plan, we've all had to adapt to kind of figuring out what's going to happen tomorrow. And so I think we've embraced that, but that's part of just kind of let's control what we control. And, let's not get caught up in setting specific expectations as far as, a time or something like that.
Dan, let's flip to the men's side. And the men were 4-4 in Patriot League duels last year and finished fourth at the championships. Who are some of the guys that Bison fans should be watching out for this spring, both in the pool and maybe on the diving board?
Yeah, so we had definitely had a young team last year, and we knew we had the potential for a lot of growth. One of the challenges of having limited practice and some limited in-person times is, you don't have, you can't do all the things that you want to do. But I think we're still very excited to return to competition. Few names that pop into mind. Certainly Leo Kuehl was one of our top sprinters last year as a freshman. And so we're excited to see what progress he makes. We've got some great freshmen that are going to come in, as well as the guys on the call today that we're excited about the leadership they're going to provide.
Dan, our next question is actually from a viewer, and it's from Mark in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. And he wants to know, given that the team has just returned to practice after approximately 3 weeks of pause, have the plans for spring season been altered? And if so, how?
I think it depends on how you mean the plans altered. So right now, we are fortunate that all of our competitive opportunities are still on the board. And we know that just because it's on a schedule doesn't guarantee it's going to happen. But we feel fortunate that we have not lost that. But as far as the plan, the plan continues to change. And so, I gave up on a quad plan a long time ago, but I did have a 12-week plan to start the semester. And as we kind of roll into week 5 of that semester, we are about to wrap up about week 2 of the plan. And so it's just rolling with it. But again, I think our team has, not that we're perfect. We all have our down moments, but we just keep adapting and trying to move forward the best we can. And so definitely the training plan keeps getting altered a little bit.
So Mark's question actually plays right into the final question we have for you today, Dan. So in the sequence of a quote unquote normal season, most teams taper and shave as they head into the championship meets. How will you and the team approach the training timeline this year so that you're all peaking when Bucknell hosts the league championship in Kinney Natatorium in late April?
I think one of the things we found, and I think our sport has evolved a bit when, you still use the term taper a lot, but there are actually coaches out there that don't even like that word anymore because it's about peaking for prime performance. And when you get into whatever you want to call it, taper or peaking for prime performance, it is an individualized thing. And so we, over the last many years, have really tried to get individualized in looking at somebody's physiological needs. There are people that need more rest, that need less rest, as well as somebody's body of work. And so that certainly goes into it as we make the plan. But probably the simplest answer I can give, the base is going to be smaller, so the taper is going to be a lot shorter.
All right. Well, I get that. I understand it completely. So, Dan, we really appreciate you taking the time out to join us today, and we wish you, your other coaches, and your team the best of luck this spring.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. So time now to welcome our 4 current swimmers to today's program. All right. Welcome, everyone. Our first guest is senior Maggie Wangowski, who is from Niskayuna, New York. She is already a 5-time Patriot League medalist and owns a trio of school records. Thanks for joining us today, Maggie.
Thank you for having me.
Can you start off by just telling us your recruiting story and how you wound up as a member of Bucknell's swimming and diving program?
Yeah, so when I was looking at colleges, I actually had a professional helping me, and she was helping me put together the academics, athletics, and location I wanted, and Bucknell ended up on that list. So I ended up emailing Dan and having a few phone calls with him, and I came on my recruit trip September of my senior year. And right when I got on campus, I fell in love with the campus and the team. One of my favorite memories from that trip was we actually went bowling, and being a very competitive person, that was so fun for me. And then something that really just like made me officially decide to come to Bucknell is just the people at this school, because I remember being in a class, a psych class with one of the swimmers, and everyone there that like wasn't even on the team were trying to get me to come to Bucknell. And I think that just shows a lot about the people at this school. So I ended up going on a few other recruit trips and deciding on Bucknell, and so happy I did. So
we're happy you did too.
Maggie, how'd you do in that bowling game? Did you bowl at 360?
Pretty close.
Well, it's great to see you. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. Our question for you, it's a fun one from Hall of Famer Jim Harvey, who currently lives in Cape Elizabeth, Maine. And he says, we all face challenges, obstacles in life, both in and out of the pool. During this pandemic, what has been the biggest challenge or obstacle for you in regards to swimming, and how have you overcome that?
That's a great question. So I think the biggest obstacle for me has been the on and off swimming, because swimming is one of those sports where you get out of shape after a week or two out of the pool. And it's frustrating sometimes when you get back in shape and then all of a sudden it's like you're paused again and you can't swim. But the way I've overcome that is I've tried to do other workouts on land. And over the summer, actually, me and some of my teammates did Zoom dance classes together, which was a fun way to get involved with the team virtually. And then I tell myself that I'm taking advantage of all the opportunities that I've been given. So there's not much more I can do. So I just try to keep a positive attitude and have fun my last year.
Maggie, we recently recorded a series called Through the Decades for the Women's Swimming and Diving Program, and you were fortunate enough to take part in the session for the decade of the 2000s, which had some pretty talented women on the call, including a pair of Hall of Famers. What was that like for you, and what were some of the things you might have taken away from that discussion?
It was such a cool experience. Something that I found really awesome about it was one of the ladies was talking about traditions that the women's team used to do before the Navy meet, and we still do that tradition now. So it was just really cool to see how those traditions carry on throughout the years. Something that I took away from that experience was to just stay in the moment, which is really important to remember right now, and to cherish the time you have, because I mean, I'm almost done and it does go by really fast, and I'm sure these next few months will go by fast, but just like cherish the memories and the people that you're with.
So Maggie, we've pointed that you've had a very noteworthy career as a Bison women's swimming and diving student athlete. So how similar, right? Sort of reverse from your time with the women on the decades call. How are you serving in that role as far as using your experiences and giving advice and mentoring younger members of your team, particularly during this time?
Yeah, so although I've had a successful career, I've gone through obstacles and struggles myself. My sophomore year was very hard on me mentally. And something that I like to talk to my teammates about is that they can ask for help, and I'm always here for them to talk. And I think that's really important to know, especially for the freshmen this year, because it can be mentally hard transitioning into college during a pandemic. So I want them to always know that I'm just here if they need to reach out and talk, and if they need to find someone to talk to, that I can help them. And specifically with the freshmen or the first years, we like tried at the beginning of fall semester to have people on the team reach out to them and do team bonding of like maybe a picnic outside with a few girls or a sweet frog run. And during those times, we kind of answered any questions they had about transitioning into college. And I think that was really helpful for them.
Well, Maggie, we certainly don't want to push you out the door, particularly with your senior season right in front of you now. But can you tell us what your major is here at Bucknell, and if you have any post-graduation plans yet?
Yeah, so I'm a double major in psychology and Italian. My post-graduation plans right now are going to grad school for sports management. I'm not sure where yet, but I'm trying to decide in the next month or so. But yeah, I'm excited for that.
We're excited for you, and we wish you the best of luck in the coming weeks, and certainly this weekend at Colgate and beyond. Thank you for taking the time out today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Our next guest is senior Emily Gorham, who hails from Chatham, New Jersey, and she was an All-Patriot League selection last year after scoring 36 points at the league's championship meet. Welcome, Emily. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So for the Bison fans who are not aware, can you share your story, how you wound up here at Bucknell?
Yeah, so I actually first heard of Bucknell from my sister because she was also a collegiate swimmer, and her freshman year of college, she actually came to our mid-season meet, the Bucknell Invitational. And through that, she was like, they have a great team, they have great academics and stuff. This is something you should keep in mind when you're looking for colleges. So then when my time came, I definitely had Bucknell already in the back of my head, and I wanted to find a program that was very good at balancing athletics and academics. And through the recruiting process, just talking to Dan and the other coaches, they really kind of showed me that I, resonate with the values of the team and just kind of their mindset of training and academic balance. And then when I came on my recruiting trip and just being immersed into the Bucknell academics and seeing the team and stuff, I shortly knew after that this was going to be the place for me.
Well, where'd your sister go to school? Because I want to be sure to make a donation to that institution for the great advice she gave you to come here to Bucknell.
She went to University of Vermont.
Gotcha.
Emily, great to see you. So you're a part of a very successful distance and free stroke group that includes Amanda Lauer, Maddie Hartigan, Sabrina Von Bacco, and recently graduated Abby Merriman. So what is it like to be part of such a competitive group, and how have you all pushed each other throughout your time?
It's definitely something that's really special. I mean, thinking back to last year, we swam almost every single practice together, and we created this bond and this friendship outside of the pool, which I really think kind of helped us inside of the pool too. And just being distance swimmers, there's a lot of, physical and mental challenges that come with it. We're always the ones doing like lots of yardage in practice, sometimes staying a little bit later than other people, and at meets swimming all the long stuff. So it definitely gets very mentally taxing, and having that friendship and that bond kind of outside of the pool taught us how to motivate each other and get each other fired up for races, and just kind of know each other very well, which I thought was extremely special. And I think we wanted it as much for each other as we did for ourselves and the team. And we just really enjoyed spending so much time together and working hard together and doing what we love. So it was definitely something that one of my most special moments from this team for sure.
Emily, our next question for you is from one of our viewers, and it's from Elaine in Southampton, Pennsylvania. And she would like to know, first of all, is everyone excited for the first meet? And secondly, as a senior on the team, what advice do you have for the freshmen as they prepare to have their first collegiate competition?
Yeah, so I think everyone is pretty excited for our first meet, especially, the returners kind of know our, team culture on deck is so positive, cheering everyone on, men's and women's swimmers and divers. So I think that's something that, is very special about our program and something to get really excited about. And I think the thought of, at least having that little sense of normalcy, hopefully this weekend is, very special for people. So I think everyone is very excited. And then advice for the first years, I think just really take it all in. You only get your first meet once, you only get your first season once. And as someone who's kind of living through their season of lasts, I definitely wish I could go back to freshman year and take it in a little bit more. And then just, live in the moment, embrace every opportunity, like Dan was saying earlier. And they're going to do great.
Well, we are all really excited to kick off the seasons for many of the programs this weekend, and certainly the trip up to Hamilton for the swimming and diving programs. If you had to sort of pick out one or two things from a mental and physical standpoint that really has been the focus of the team in preparation for what's going to come this weekend, what would you say that focus is?
I think for both, it's kind of the same in terms of we're just going into this with, no expectations, just to have fun, get back into the racing mindset. As Dan was talking about earlier, we have had a lot of setbacks in terms of training over breaks within the past few weeks and stuff. So I know that, physically we all wish we were kind of in a different place than we are right now, but I think we all are in a pretty good mental place in terms of, after about a year of not competing, we're ready to get up and race and just kind of, do what we love and do what we do best.
So Emily, our final question for you today is similar to the one we asked Maggie. What's your area of study here at Bucknell, and do you have any plans for post-graduation?
Yeah, so I'm a markets innovation and design major with a focus in consumer behavior in the College of Management. And as for post-graduation plans, I'm definitely well underway in the job searching process, looking for entry-level jobs in marketing and product development and stuff. So definitely very exciting, but still up in the air.
Well, good luck with the job search. I know that'll be a little bit stressful, but I'm sure you'll come through in flying colors. Thanks again for being here today, and good luck to you and your teammates this weekend and throughout the season.
Thank you so much.
All right, so now we've got our first guest from the men's team today, and that is senior backstroker Kevin Flynn, who's from Watchung, New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Todd, Maisha, always a pleasure.
Kevin, it is. It's great to see you. So similar to what we asked of the women, can you share your recruiting story and how you decided on Bucknell?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for every time, every student athlete has like their own version of what they're looking for when committing to a program. You can like walk around campus and say, this is really nice, but like, every college tries to spin it. They're very nice. But first thing that kind of came out to me was the instant connection actually I made with Dan, and it just kind of took off right away. But I think one of the things that my club coach always talked to me about was leaving a program better than you found it. And that's really what I was looking for. And I really saw that opportunity with the men's team, walking in with the leadership that they set early on, teaching me to lead by example, to always hold yourself to the highest standards. And it's really been about, leaving the program better than I found it. And I think that's what I had the best opportunity to do at Bucknell. And that's the only thing I've set out to do.
So Kevin, we've got a question from a viewer for you. And this is from Tom right here in Lewisburg. And it actually ties into what Emily talked about a little while ago, a team culture. But Tom says, at every Bucknell swim meet I've been to, the team spirit on the deck is something that really stands out. Are the teams really that close? And what is it about the culture with the program that brings you all together?
Yeah, Tom, that's a great question. And I think the first thing I'm going to say is I think swimming and diving is a very fortunate program that can be co-ed. Having every person on deck, 60 plus people, coaches included, just all cheering on each program at any meet, any time. I think it's very accurate that we're a very close-knit group, eating a meal together after practice, going out to eat. Now, this is obviously pre-COVID, but still keeping in touch with teammates, whether it's a FaceTime, checking in with a group via Zoom, or whatever. So yes, it is the teams are actually very much that close. And one thing I'll add as well is even though that this weekend at Colgate's going to be separate, it's still going to be, I'm sure the women will be watching us as much as we'll be watching them.
Kevin, your sophomore year, you were one of two Patriot League student athletes selected to attend the NCAA Student Athlete Leadership Forum. And knowing that the emphasis that we place on leadership development here and the opportunities that are exposed to our student athletes, what did that experience mean for you, and how have you used that to leverage your time as both a leader and a member of the Bucknell community?
Yeah. First thing I'll say, Maisha, is one of the best experiences I've ever had throughout my college years. It was just so fascinating to see people from all walks of life, from all conferences, all across the country, all divisions as well, too. You had divisions 1, 2, and 3 in Orlando that weekend. And one thing I'll say about it is it was so incredible to see every team, whether it's a football field or a basketball court or a swimming pool, how closely together teams come when they need each other, whether it's lifting each other up, obstacles that we have to overcome, the resilience that goes into it. And hearing how people lead their teams was not much different than what me and Nate and Mitch Gavars included go through on a daily basis. And hearing other people's perspectives, hearing other people's ways of leadership was really fascinating to hear and see, and as well as passing our experiences on to them to better their programs as well. And it's one thing I'll also add is, it's amazing that someone at like a school like North Carolina, which has, some of the top athletes in the world, taking advice from someone from the Patriot League. So it was a really, really cool experience.
Kevin, I'm going to ask you to put your coaching hat on now and give us your best scouting report of the freshman men in the program. What can we expect from those guys, and are there anybody individually we should be watching out for?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll say about the freshmen is what a group of exciting young men. These guys are ready to swim. They're ready to compete, and they've been ready. They come in shape. They're really kicking our butts early, and making their statement early in practice. I know that we didn't have the opportunity to compete in the fall, but I can tell you, Todd, these guys are excited and they're ready. A name that comes to mind is John Gehrig. I've been training with him from the beginning. He's setting the example early, making his statement known. I think he's someone to watch this weekend at Colgate when he takes the blocks. So keep your eye on him. But all guys included, I'm excited to watch them. I know Nate's excited to watch them. We're excited to lead them, and we're really excited to see the leadership. When we're gone, to see where they go.
Kevin, I kind of did a double take when we just were talking about the fact that, you all are seniors. And so would certainly love to hear and share with the audience what you majored in, and if you have postgraduate plans at this time, what your pursuit of plans are if there's nothing solidified yet.
Yeah. So right now, economics major with a big chunk of math involved as well. And it's been awesome to just go through the process of academics here. Currently, I'm one of the very lucky ones that jumped on an employment process early. Started networking around March of 2020, and I will be interning at Mariner Wealth Advisors in Madison with the expectation of hopefully them signing me full time at time of completion. Just going to continue with the stuff I've learned here, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it all works out for the best.
That's great. And I look forward to hearing how that news goes, and also to just the success of the season and cheering all of you on. So thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us this afternoon.
Appreciate it, Todd, Maisha. Pleasure.
All right. Our final guest today is senior Nate Romanowski, who's from Nokesville, Virginia. Welcome to the show, Nate.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll follow the same format and have you give us a little bit about the background of how you wound up here as a Bison.
So I was really looking for a school that had a good balance of athletics and academics. I was a very academic-minded person in high school, and I really wanted a place that had that like small classroom environment where you really get to know the professors. And I found that with like Bucknell's mechanical engineering program. And that's been a fantastic experience this whole time. And the other thing that really hooked me is when I came on my recruiting trip and just saw how tight knit the group was. and how like positive their team dynamic was.
Nate, good to see you as well. And so the we talked about this, and so right, the theme of just things are different this year, and so certainly this has not been the normal preseason training or preparation going into the season. So just talk again from your perspective what that focus is, and how you and your teammates are preparing for what will be a season.
So Dan spent a lot of time talking about opportunity with the team this year. And that's really resonated with us, where we're really trying to take on every single opportunity that we have to train, because we don't really know like when some of those opportunities might go away. So we're going to like get after the ones that are like today and that we have the chance to take on. It's kind of funny, even when they announced the Colgate meet last week, I was still in quarantine for a contact trace. I thankfully never got COVID, but I was kind of sitting there, like my first reaction was, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. Like I haven't practiced in 3 weeks now, but now that I'm back in the pool, I'm training and I'm committed to doing this meet, I'm really excited for it.
So as one of the veterans on the team now, how has your career progressed, you think, over the last 3 years? And what are some of the expectations you might have for yourself, Nate, and also for the team this year?
So for the past 3 years, I've kind of had like incremental progress, but I've never really gotten to the point where I want to be, which is scoring at Patriots. And so that's going to be something that'd be really meaningful to me if I can achieve this year. Even throughout like not making the Patriot roster these past years, I've always tried to carry myself well in a way that people who are in similar positions can look up to and say, hey, even though like I didn't make this spot this year, like I'm still going to go after it next year and, take every opportunity that I have. And for the team this year, I mean, we definitely can't look at it in the same like performance metrics that we have in years past. But what I really want to see is like a positive atmosphere on deck, everyone excited about like the opportunities that we have. And I think that's how it's going to be.
Nate, we're going to ask you a question that was asked earlier, but when you have a Hall of Famer submitting questions, we're going to ask it twice. So this is the question from Jim Harvey, and it's again, we all face challenges and obstacles in life, both in and out of the pool. And so during this pandemic, what has been the biggest challenge or obstacle that you have faced with regards to swimming, and how have you overcome that?
I mean, I hate to give the same answer that Maggie gave earlier, but it's a lot of the starting and stopping. We really are a sport that relies on like very consistent training patterns. And it's been really hard to not have those as like a foundation. And again, going back to my earlier answer, it's just taking every single opportunity that we have to train. And that's definitely the way that I've been attacking these practices that we've had recently. And I think that's the way everyone else is too.
So Nate, as a senior, how special is it to you, and actually it's to all four of you, to be able to close your career with Patriots here in Kinney Natatorium again, coming up in April?
I mean, I think it's huge. We know going into it that it's probably not going to be the same format that it was sophomore year, where even though like I wasn't competing, I was on deck cheering for everyone in finals. And that was so special to see all that. And we understand that it's not going to be that, but it's really going to be something memorable for us. And to be able to close out, all these careers have been at least 15 or so years in the making here. So, and to do it in our home pool is really an amazing experience.
Final question for you. You mentioned your major earlier, but postgraduate plans for yourself?
So I'm actually doing a little switch from mechanical engineering and going into a systems engineering role at Lockheed Martin next year, located right by my home.
That's fantastic. You already know what you're doing. That's always a plus. Well, thanks for sharing the time this afternoon, Nate, and we wish you the best of luck. Certainly hope you get to Patriots and score those points that you're looking to do, and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. A special thanks to all of our guests today. We certainly appreciate their time. That just about wraps up the show. We want to thank Jeffrey Campbell, Jen DeBias, and Jess O'Shaughnessy for their assistance with today's event. Our next event in our season preview series, sponsored by Giant, will be tomorrow, Friday, March 5th at noon, and it will feature the men's lacrosse program. And as a reminder, you can find the complete schedule of all of our preseason shows on our Bucknell Athletics website. Thanks for joining us today, and go Bison.